Well, we are well into our 4th year of coverage out here on the Walmart FLW Tour, and we are so proud of the fact that we've been able to bring you this format and expose all these tremendous professional bass fishermen to the world. We're awful proud of that, but we also want you to consider something as a viewer. It's not likely that anytime soon you're going to be lining up and taking a pass from Dan Marino or bringing the ball down court for the Chicago Bulls, anything like that. But it is possible if you had the resolve, if you had the commitment, and you had a few breaks, you could possibly be fishing against some of the greatest fishermen in the world. The Denny Browers, the Gary Kleins, all the TV exposure, all the big money and everything like that. I'm Tommy Sanders here with Jerry McInnes. And Jerry, this is one of the few sports, maybe the only sport, where the spectators occasionally can become the participants.
So you're saying it'd be easy to just...
Not saying it's going to be easy. I'm saying that it can be done. I said you had to catch breaks, you had to be super committed.
You're right. That's a very unique thing about our sport. To make the final 5 of an FLW, boy, you have really done something, though. And you know what? Today is the Everstart series. We're going to cover the All-Star game for the AAA Baseball League.
Exactly.
Or the Nike Tour. We're kind of in the minor leagues, but these guys have got just as hard a row as the big boys do. And if you can finish in the top 5 in this Everstart, then you've got an open door next year to the FLW. Do good today, and next year you can play in the big leagues.
The only one left that's fishing any offshore structure. Most of the guys are fishing up the lake in the backs of the creeks, and typically this time of the year, that's the way it's won. On the lower end of the lake, the fish start chasing shad and leaving the cover, and it's hard to catch them day to day. And I caught them totally different yesterday than I did the day before, so I don't know. We'll just have to go fish a few areas and see if we can figure out how they're biting today. You can't go by yesterday.
Well, yesterday was a big day here on Kerr Reservoir, and we will definitely take a look at some of that in just a moment here. But right now, Jeff Coble, who we just saw there, along with Robbie Walser, Bill Chapman, Wally Zuba, and David Cook. They're the guys who are mighty proud that they're still standing, and for the most part, standing around tweaking their game plans. Hope that what they've done so far this week can last for one more day, perhaps put them in the winner's circle.
You mentioned the Nike Tour, you mentioned the AAA Baseball All-Star game. There's one big difference here in the Everstart. The big boys are down here competing as well.
Yeah, some of them are. That's exactly right.
Joel Richardson won our first tournament of the year. He's here. David Walker, the FLW Angler of the Year, who will be along with us in a little while here, he's involved.
Yeah, but these guys, being pros that they are, they don't necessarily have the advantage, though, do they?
No, none whatsoever. And you know what it is? It's because they're not competing against each other. They're competing against the fish and Mother Nature, and she don't care how good you are. She'll make it tough on you. And then, you know, they're here for the experience, and they're here because they like to compete.
Yeah, and they like to win as well. And just as the AAA baseball has the same rules as the big leagues, the same applies here with regard to the Walmart FLW Tour. Fish for 2 days, cut the field down to 10, and then on the 3rd day, those 10 anglers are praying, straining to make it into the final 5 who will fish in the finals.
Well, Tommy, I wonder if we can hold up those final 5 for just a minute now. We want to look back on some of the catches from yesterday, and after all, yesterday was the non-boaters' big day.
That's right. That's when we got our non-boater champion. This is non-boater James Pierce in the back of the boat with Robbie Walser there.
Try not to rush you.
And these guys are fishing in shallow water. I think a lot of our fishing today is going to be in shallow water. Spinner baits, crank baits, jigs. And that back of the boater was proud of that fish,
He was
wasn't he?
mighty proud of it. That was James Pierce from Weldon, North Carolina. Here's Wally Zuba's co-angler here. This is Gene Butts. Gene is from Roanoke Rapids, not too far away in the state of Virginia here.
And they're fishing on a riprap, and Wally has done.
Yeah, that's a good one.
He's done himself proud on the riprap this week.
That fish is pulling so hard, I think Gene may have split his pants there. So, hang on, Gene.
That's right.
Let her come at her own time. Just keep it tight.
Wally's a really nice guy. He'd be a guy you'd want in the front of the boat if you were a co-angler.
Isn't that the truth?
Come on, baby.
Another nice one.
All right.
Good job.
Thank you.
Well, from time to time during the show today, we're going to be joined by David Walker, the Angler of the Year on the Big Tour, the Walmart FLW Tour, and that's based on your performance in the first 2 days of each of 6 qualifying tournaments. But I know, Jerry, you have a question about days 3 and 4 of these tournaments.
Well,
right?
and first of all, I want to say it's kind of good news, bad news. Good news, David's with us.
Yeah.
Bad news for him, he didn't make it through today.
Oh, yeah. If he'd done that, he would have been the points winner, Angler of the Year on the Everstart,
On the Everstart
Eastern
as
region.
well.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'd like to know, I'd really like to know, is it harder to survive till Friday, or is it harder to survive to Saturday?
Well, for me, it's been till Saturday. I mean, you know, my track record isn't too good on making it to Saturday, but even making it to Friday isn't easy. I mean, you got your work cut out for you to get to the top 10. And there's some decisions to be made. If you're catching fish well, you don't know if I got enough, or should I catch a few more, or should I try and save some? So you got to make a decision there at some time.
Well, you know, it seems like, of course, you may have practiced 3 or 4 or 5 days, then you have them 2 hard qualifying days, and then if you make it through Friday, then it's kind of like, whew, I'm okay, I'm in here Saturday. So it seemed to me like it might be kind of an easier ride to Saturday.
Well, that's what you think maybe that could be it, but for me, it's been like you do really well the first day, and you do well again the second day, and then they say, okay, that's really nice. Now we're going to zero out all your weights. You need to do that again, and then again. And so it's like, in a deal like this, it's like trying to win 3 tournaments back to back.
I even checked out of my hotel room on the last qualifying day that morning, so I wouldn't have to pay for another night, and ended up checking back in. And then of the morning of the top 10, I checked out again. So when I made the top 5, I had to go back and check back in. So it's pretty exciting. The lady at the front desk was, she kept saying, "You back again? You back again?" I said, "Yeah. I'll keep coming back until I get knocked out."
The Walmart FLW Tour is brought to you by Walmart. Always the lowest price, always. By Everstart. It all starts here. By Wrangler. Wrangler, real, comfortable jeans. And by Fujifilm. You can see the future from here.
Right here, I'm fishing an old road bed that used to cross right here. There's some rock rubble on it. And I've taken some good fish during the tournament on a crankbait right here. They seem to slack off about 9:30 or 10, and then about noon pick back up again. But yeah, the morning bite has been much better for me.
Well, Bill Chapman, along with all our other finalists here, will be very concerned with water levels today. The water was very, very low, but now it is rising.
Lost him. Not a good way to start.
The rising water, I think it's come up at least 1.5 to 2 foot in the past 2 days, so I think it's really helped. It's brought some more fish up. There's one. Feels like a good fish. I knew I was bumping that rock for a reason. I knew the fish are there. Come on, stay hooked up, baby, stay hooked up. God. Stay hooked up, baby. Stay hooked up. He might be a keeper, I'm not sure. Calm the nerves. I needed one. Now I'm ready.
He is ready, and he is underway on this final day of the Everstart Championship. Here's a young guy who's really done it right. I mean, he started out fishing in his local bass club, got through the progressively larger tournaments. David Cook here from Davidson, North Carolina. Done very well on the Everstart Series. Here he is in the final 5.
Right, has qualified as a non-boater over on the FLW side, so he paid his dues there as well.
Absolutely. Here's Billy Chapman. Billy is from Salt Rock, West Virginia. He's got one on, trying to keep up with David Cook at this point.
I believe that, well, I know Bill hasn't been fishing crankbaits as much, and I think he's got a spinnerbait on right now. And again, like we mentioned earlier, these guys are fishing. Oh, no, Billy.
That's not the start you want.
These guys are fishing in shallow water. You know what? He should have probably played that fish around the front end of the boat just a little bit more. He kind of got
That's
it
a
right.
4 and a 3 I've lost already.
Well,
man,
something's going wrong, Billy.
yeah.
Those fish just aren't, you know, when you bring them straight in like that, they're awful hot at times. And I know the guys with crankbaits, boy, they work them back and forth and back and forth.
Losing two good ones like that, the first two fish of the day, a lot of guys won't recover from that. We hope Bill's got the mental toughness. He's got what it takes to do that.
Wally Zuba on the bridge pier right now. It's
Really pretty place there with all the fog.
Got a little spectator work going on.
Nice one.
You know, I mentioned earlier that he's had some riprap fish that he's been working over.
Riprap exposed and beautiful here on Kerr Reservoir.
Check out the rod action here, Tommy.
Tell you what, now that's unorthodox, but man, nice fish. Good start for Wally.
Boy. Whoop.
May have stepped ahead of Mr. Cook with that one. Okay, Wally.
Rod in the water.
Just because you catch a big one doesn't mean you have to throw back the rod.
Boy, that's a great place to fish, though, around bridge piers and the riprap.
Good way to start out.
It's all going right. And you know, the bridge pier gives you a little bit of shade, and of course, there's always feed around the rock riprap, and Wally's fishing a spinnerbait as well. Wally is a spinnerbait fisherman, and so you know he is going to be fishing that an awful lot.
Is he just bouncing it off those rocks where they're under the surface there, Jerry?
Yeah, I'm sure he is.
You notice I start on this corner every time.
There's a good one. There's a good one. Stay down, stay down, stay down. Where's the net? Stay down. Get in the net. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. They just come. Fish just bite every now and then for me. That's the way it's been. Number 2.
Back to Bill Chapman now. You got a feel for this guy. He's on the fish. He's getting the bites. He's just not landing the fish.
Well, he's landed one fish, I think, and
there he is.
And we're
good
gonna watch
fish.
See if he's gonna.
Oh, this has got to be better. This has
Come
got to
on,
turn
don't you
out
come
better.
off of there. Just need 3 more now.
Yesterday we had a lot more wind, and it was blowing this way, right against the bank here. And they're really feeding yesterday afternoon. George, my amateur partner, finished I think 7th. He caught a 3-pounder off this bank yesterday, and I caught 2 keepers. There's another one. There's another one. Oh, stay hooked up, baby. Come on, baby, I need you. Don't pull off. Feels like a good one. It's a keeper. Good keeper. Thank you.
Today it's going to take 17 or better to win today. Which I got them around me if I just make them bite. If I can, I'll just take whatever I get. Be a hero or a zero. I don't think he'll measure. We'll worry about that in a minute though, won't we? Nope. He ain't gonna make it. $13.5. Thank you.
Well, Jeff, I guess today's the day when you really need to get that patience working for you. It's hard to stick on one place when you haven't had too many results so far, isn't it?
You're right. I told you that yesterday I never had a bite till 11:30, and I swore there was no way I could fish till 11:30 today without having a bite, but so far I'm doing a pretty good job of it.
So everything's right on track then?
Yeah, yeah. We just have less time to fish after 11:30 today than we did yesterday.
That's true.
Jeff, you were talking to us also yesterday about how many events you fish on this lake and have never won one. You finish well, but you've never won one.
No, I've never won an Operation Bass event. I've fished Redmans, Pro-Ams, Golden Blends, FLWs, and Everstarts, and I've finished second in quite a few of them, but I've never won one.
Why do you think that is? I mean, you're such a talented fisherman.
I don't know. I tell you, it's kind of interesting, really, to try to analyze why that is. I've never figured it out. I finished second to David Wright 4 or 5 times, Gerald Beck 2 or 3 times. I mean, by ounces a couple of times. It's kind of weird.
Well, one thing right there, boy, you've got some awful good competition over here.
Tough place to be fishing.
Yeah, and you know, I guess you can't complain about consistently pretty good finishes on this lake, but dang, I'd like to win one.
Wouldn't you agree with me if I said that this is the crankbait capital of the world? Some of the best that there ever were live right here on this reservoir.
Well, yeah, I guess, actually, I think it probably started at High Rock Lake and kind of worked its way up here to this lake. And I think the reason for that is it's the way these lakes are structured. They're pretty much lowland impoundments, and they have quite a bit of watercolor or stain to them year-round. That's pretty critical to a crankbait lake. They've got to have quite a bit of watercolor.
And then on top of that, it's kind of when that gets going, then you have people around here that start developing good crankbaits. So you've got everything going here.
Yeah, that's right. Everybody's kind of hacking out some crankbaits now. Jerry Lohr's making some over in Lexington. Ed Chambers is making a few for his friends. I'm glad I'm one of his friends.
Yeah. and not only that, the crankbaits that you may have over here fish all depths. I mean, you got different crankbaits, but you guys work on all depths. Where I know some lakes where when the crankbait fishing is over in 3 or 4 foot of water, then it's over again. But you guys just go to a different bait.
Yeah, that's right. We change. I've got 3 different baits sitting here now. One that runs about 7 foot maximum, one that runs about 9 to 10, and one that runs about 15 to 16. It's been almost 5 years since I won one. I've had 2 this year that I thought I should have won, so they just didn't bite. Not poor execution or anything else, they just didn't bite. Maybe this would be my turn finally. I'm kind of due one. I think I've about forgot how to win. Probably as consistent as anybody in several states, but that consistency don't pay near like winning. About right in there, something. There more. That might keep. That might keep. No, he just pulls good. He just pulls good. Oh, 13.5. 13.5.
It seems like fishermen get a free day when they get to see the bottom. When they drain a reservoir completely or it goes down to other levels, you get a better idea what's going on under the water, don't
well,
you?
and of course, Jeff Coble and all these guys are pretty busy out there right now trying to catch fish. But sometimes I feel like a guy goes out on the lake with it in shape like it is right now and fishes, and he should just probably quit fishing and just spend the day or the weekend and just really locate these places. I bet Jeff and David Wright and David Fritz and all those guys from up here would agree with me.
Yesterday, during practice on Monday, I was fishing in this one creek, and since the water's down so low, there's a lot more stumps visible. And I was going down this one bank in this creek, and there's a stump sticking out of the water about a foot, and then on top of that stump was a horseshoe. It was embedded in the stump, in the top of the stump. So I trolled over there, and I grabbed it off that stump, and it fell right off into my hand. And I said, well, there's my good luck charm for this tournament. And that was on Monday, 2 days before the tournament started, and I put it in my boat, and I've been standing on it ever since.
Well, David Cook needs to keep his foot firmly planted on the shoe. There he is, your leader so far. 3 fish, 7 pounds, just ahead of Bill Chapman. But what if Bill had landed those first 2? He'd be in the lead.
There's one. Oh boy, that's another good one. If you just stay hung up. Get back up here with him. Don't do that to me now.
All right, second keeper of the day now for Robbie Walser. So he has begun to get himself back in that thing. That's a good-looking fish, too.
Yeah, and these guys are going to, well, when those crankbaits start, the guys that really know how to fish them are tough to beat on Kerr Reservoir. Of course, there's some good crankbait fishermen around there. I tell you what, though, let's talk about how they do that and how differently each one of them does it. If you'll notice,
get out of there.
Maybe not right now, but at another point you'll look and you'll notice that Robbie Walser doesn't even have his seat in his front of the boat.
He stands up the whole time.
He stands up all the time. Coble, Gerald Beck, David Wright, David Fritz, and on probably.
All the guys from that part of the country.
They sit down like you see Jeff doing right here. And they, you know what? I don't know, they sit and fish in a fashion that I've never seen before.
They like to have that rod tip in the water, too.
They point the rod tip at the water. They reel very steadily. And when a fish hits their crankbait, unless you're on the ball, you don't even know they've had a strike because it's
they just keep on cranking.
They just keep on cranking. We'll see it again. Jeff is going to do that all day long. But again, I want you to know that these guys, and that's part of the country, are maybe the best that there is at this tactic.
So many times during practice, I really don't feel too good about the tournament, but I fish differently during the tournament than I do in practice. When I'm in practice, I kind of get my map out, and I know I'm going to go to this creek, and then after that, I'm going to go check out this area of the lake and things of that nature. So I kind of have a regiment there, but during the tournament, when I go out there fishing, I know a place I'm going to start, and I'll even tell my amateur partners about that. I'll say, now this is where we're going to go start, and we're going to try this. If it works, that'd be good, but if it don't, I don't know where we'll end up from there, but we'll end up fishing some shallow water somewhere, and so that's what I do during a tournament. I just, if I have a hunch, like running down the lake, and I think, go in there and try it, I'll go try it. I don't hesitate to, even if I haven't fished it in practice. If it looks good, I'll just go fish it and give it a try, and so many times in the tournament, that's paid off for me.
The Walmart FLW Tour is brought to you by Coleman, the outdoor recreation company. By Timex, takes a licking and keeps on ticking. By Chevy, the most dependable, longest-lasting trucks. And by Wheaties, the breakfast of champions. Back to Bill Chapman now. Bill is pitching those jigs now. And with all the great fish we see on crankbaits, it's amazing. There's always somebody who's going to fish something else and do well with it.
You betcha. Of course, now look, he's fishing in shallow water. He's fishing in probably 8 feet shallower than Jeff Coble is. Now, that doesn't mean that a crankbait won't catch some of those fish up in shallow water as well. But a fish can get around a stump or a rock or whatever, and for some reason will not hit a crankbait. But you drop a jig on them and bam, they've got it. And you know, the other way around too. You know, he might
went on that stump for a jig that they would leave him.
And he Bill's talking about that right there. He's just going behind someone.
Super aggressive there.
He's going behind someone that he thinks has fished a crankbait on these stumps that we see right there already. And so he's just going along with his jig.
He's a cleanup man.
That's right.
Limit by 8:30. That's not bad.
Jeff Coble with another one there. We saw him just land his first keeper moments ago. So he does not get early limits here in this tournament anyway. But boy, his fish are nice. Let's see what this one looks like.
See there, man.
If he can first one I've ever caught in the tournament there.
If he could get 5 like that, he'd be doing okay. Now look, he is not just throwing that crankbait out and reeling it back to the boat. I hope that, well, you know, I know you can't get an exact feel for what he's doing there, but he is getting it around something. He's feeling, he actually, you know, he almost fishes it like a plastic worm or a jig. He gets it in the brush and he works it and he feels it, and that's how he catches those fish.
If I caught one there in a tournament, things is definitely improving because I never have before.
And another thing, boy, I could talk forever.
You study these guys.
I do. I really get a real bang out of watching these guys fish crankbaits. They fish spots over and over and over again. What I mean, maybe not 2 casts, maybe 52 casts before they finally leave it. They really work it over good.
There's only one. I guess it's a stump. I used to think it was a rock. I've caught a few off of it. You'd think you'd catch one every time you come to it, but it's really not been that good. I knew if I kept fishing it long enough that one day I'd catch one when I needed it.
Why do they throw so many times? Do they get a little different angle every time?
Well, a little different angles, and then they finally just make a fish mad that's in there. And so many of their strikes are reaction strikes. So, you know, who knows which pass will spur the fish into jumping out there on it. Again, look at him sitting there, very, very upright, rod tip at the water, reeling very steady. His body doesn't hardly even move when he makes this cast.
When I decided to do this series, I was determined I was going to put in my homework and spend enough time on the water to feel confident where I could compete with these guys that he missed it, son of a gun. That I could compete with these guys that do it for a living. So on this particular trip down here, I came down 2 weeks ago with my wife for 5 days, and we just had a great time fishing. Caught a lot of big fish. She's not really into the fishing very much, but she enjoyed herself. She caught some in it.
See how the water's cleared up in here today? You actually see them stumps now? Things is playing into my hand, I hope. Tell him I want a new shuffle. I don't believe he'll keep. He might, but I don't believe he does. Yes, he will.
Robbie Walser and another good keeper there. He is getting out in front, doing very well today.
And he's talking about the stumps, seeing the stumps in the water. And these are the stumps that are just barely under the surface, not ones that are sticking out like you see right here, but just barely under the surface. And it just says that the water's starting to clear up, which is perfect for him.
There's that stump. There's that one.
Robbie, tell us what you're fishing with.
I'm fishing a little Zoom crankbait and a little Pradco crankbait and a little crankbait modified by a guy named Calvin Johnson from there at home. Basically what I'm doing is fishing little stump and rock edges where they fall off into the creek channel about 6 to 8 foot deep.
So you're not really around a lot of brush, or are you?
No, I'm not around any brush hardly at all. Mostly what I'm fishing now is stumps and rocks, mostly.
That's kind of different for this lake, isn't it?
Well, it's not really different. It's normally by now we've got a fall pattern beginning that puts the fish on rocks and stumps on these creek channel edges as the fish start moving. It's just kind of unusual that everything is happening. Basically, it's happened in a week, because a week ago it wasn't going on at all. It's all just, I guess, the rising water has made everything just kind of crash into being.
And man, you were talking to us a little earlier about the fact that if you'd had your choice, you may have backed out of this tournament.
Yeah, if you didn't have a hurricane, you wouldn't be here.
Well, I told you yesterday, I sent my money in when Hurricane Cindy and Brett and Emily were all circling in the Gulf, hoping that they would come ashore, and they didn't. So I said, man, I wish I had my money back, because I couldn't catch any. And then thankfully, Dennis, when it done its retreat, it put enough water back in here that the water came up, and when it did, it messed up the deep fish, because the majority of the fish were still 20 to 30 feet deep, and I don't have enough string to fish that deep.
Yeah, we'll look for you to stick right there. And Robbie, good to talk to you. We'll see you a little bit later.
Thank you, sir. Fished this stick. Last tournament that we fished here, I fished the stick 4 times. 4th time I caught a 4-pounder on it. 4 times in one day, and never got a bite off that. And the last time caught a 4-pounder. Let today be the day. There's a 4-pounder in there. $12, $20, and $5. That's a pretty good deal.
Well, now he's fishing that stick. What a time to put down the camera.
Okay.
Get back on that thing.
I got one. Look what a fish. Ooh, son, look what a fish. Come on now, stay on this thing. You all right? I just got to get him under control here a little bit better. Oh, get out of that motor. That's what we can't afford. Come on. It's 4 plus, maybe even 5 plus. It works for me if it don't for nobody else. How's that? Told you I'd catch one off that stick. Undo this so I can get to my scales. Man, what a problem to have.
Everybody has hunches. I mean, this isn't something that you could say, well, you know, you get lots of hunches. I don't very seldom ever get any hunches. Everybody gets hunches, but you have to be aware of what just come across your mind and how to react on them. That's a darn heavy question.
You're getting metaphysical on this here.
Talk about that a little bit.
We have to sit down here. Well, yeah, I mean, everybody does have some hunches like that, and so many times that's what pays off for them. I mean, I think that's what makes some of the fishermen that people say, well, I don't know, how come this guy catches more than this guy? And I don't know, some guys maybe can analyze them hunches better than other guys can. But
give us an example of a guy that you might think really jumps on his hunches and takes advantage of them. I guess anybody that is successful.
Anybody. Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, so many times that's the way it goes. A guy that like like in these FLW tournaments, how many times have you seen a guy win the tournament on his last cast? He knows he needs to leave, and he doesn't go in early. He stays right there just because he has a feeling that that may be, yeah, and he keeps his enthusiasm up like that, and that's really important. I mean, if you don't do good the first hour, first 2 hours, so many guys, they say, well, might as well quit. You know, I'm done.
So in other words, in another situation, that guy that was sitting on that last spot gave up too soon, ran to another place, and ended up in 47th place.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. That happens. Or running into the boat ramp, he looks, checks his watch, sees he's got an extra 10 or 15 minutes that he probably didn't think he had, and instead of stopping, seeing something, fishing a little bit, they just go on in and say, well, you know, that ain't going to happen to me, but it will.
The Everstart Challenge from Kerr Reservoir. Jeff Coble here fishing on Nutbush Creek, running neck and neck with Robbie Walser over on Grassy Creek.
Oh, oh, oh. Ooh, there he is.
2 O's and an ooh.
Yeah, what was that? Ooh, ooh, oh, or oh?
That's Morse code. That means pretty good fish.
You know what that is? That is Jeff Coble feeling that crankbait down in a bush. He actually felt the bush before he felt the strike. You know, he's feeling it in the bush and is basically saying, boy, that feels good when he's going ooh, ooh. And then the oh is when a fish jumps up there and grabs it. So you just have to know, Tom.
He is really in tune with what's going on at the bottom of that line down there.
He's fishing a little bit shallower crankbait right now, I believe. And these fish, man, they hit it so slightly. In other words, they just come up behind it and just kind of move it to the side, and you.
They're swimming with it. They're swimming in the direction that he's reeling, right?
Right.
He pushed the bait at me. He pushed the bait at least 2 foot. Then I thought he was going to get back in the tree on me, because he was a bulling around. But he didn't. Now he gets to be a movie star.
Key to catching that fish was switching to a more shallow running plug. Because I yesterday, when I fished here, I stayed hung too much to catch one. So I switched to something running a little shallower. It just nips once in a while, nips those rocks. Ooh, gosh. There he is.
There's one. I got to catch up with him, but there's one. There he goes, too. There he goes, too. Come on back up here, please. He's out there about the end of the, there he goes towards the tree. Now he comes back this way. Stay on there, you 5-pounding. And don't get in that trolling motor. Whatever you do, don't get in that trolling motor. That's over 5. That's a toad. Them boys better catch him now.
Ooh, there he is. I don't know how big he is. He don't feel too big though. Yeah, he can't be big, can't be big, I don't believe. Yeah, he is too, ooh. Come up here. Gosh, that helped.
All right, Walser and Coble trying to run away with this thing. We ought to take another look at David Cook, though. We will see him in the future. He's a young man who's come a long way in a short period of time, really just a couple of years, but he'd be the first to tell you he needs work on his game physically and mentally.
There's it. There she is.
And Tommy, many viewers will question you using the word mental along with fishing, but boy, I'm telling you, it's big, and David he'll get that down with all the other things, but right now, he doesn't care at all.
Back, the Everstart challenge from Lake Kerr, one of our leaders here, Robbie Walser. About to make a little move here out of Grassy Creek, but I tell you what, these guys found the water conditions a little more to their liking today, Jerry.
You know what? When this started, well, 2 weeks before the tournament, there was talk of actually having to move the tournament because the water was so low you couldn't get into the launching ramps. And then the hurricane hit, and we got a lot of rain and got things really in much better condition, obviously.
There's Wally Zuba doing the deal where he really works over those pontoon boats.
Hey, again, these guys can go into and this probably happens everywhere, but it seems to happen more at Kerr Lake than any place for some reason. Boy, what an example here.
Forecast, he said. Well,
I was trying to tell you a story about how down in this part of the country they fish objects, our points, our brush piles so long, so many casts, and there he did 4 casts in on that fish before he finally caught him.
See Smiley's tree sticking up. Ooh, there's his stump. Ooh, ooh. Ooh, Lordy. There he is. I don't believe he's any size. Wait a minute, now he's getting a little bigger. Oh yeah, now he is getting bigger. Yeah, now he is getting bigger. How close is he to the top? He's in the box.
And another one for Coble there. You're watching this. I'm watching you watching this, Jerry, and you just go, that's incredible. It's unbelievable.
It really is. And incidentally, Smiley is his fishing partner, David Wright. And they all do it. Fritz, Gerald Beck, all of them, they take their lures and they find a bush and then they fish it very slowly and then wham, it works and a fish jumps out of that bush and gets it. Now, Robbie is, for the most part, fishing a little bit differently. He's fishing in shallow water. His fish are going to jump up there and knock the heck out of that
Works for
bait.
me.
And they are.
Yes. Robbie Walser. I mean, these guys are toe-to-toe just going at it. Coble and Walser, what a race. This is what you hope for when you come to one of these tournaments.
And if you'll remember, our scoreboards a little early had Walser and Coble with goose eggs for a while.
Yeah.
So the fishing has really come on in the middle part of the day. And Coble's has been kind of steady, you know, a good strike every now and then of 3 or 4 pound fish. Walser has just been wearing them out.
Yeah.
Man, he's already culling some pretty good fish.
If y'all will quit, I'll get rid of you. Oh.
I don't care what's going on. We have to stop for a minute and take a look at this item right here. It's the Wheaties Box, and look who's on the front of it, David Walker, our Angler of the Year on the Walmart FLW Tour for 1999. Tell us quickly how you get to be on the front of the Wheaties Box, David. And don't say practice.
Yeah, no. The Wheaties Box went to the Angler of the Year, like you said, and the Angler of the Year is determined by points. The first 2 days of the tournaments. How you finish up determines how many points you get. First place getting 75, second 74, and all the way down the line. And so at the end of the 6 tournaments. They determine who has the most points, and that makes it the Angler of the Year. So you really don't have to win anything, which is good, because as you know, I haven't won any of these tournaments yet.
But man, being consistent.
You have to be consistent in order to get it.
On those 2 tough days, Wednesday and Thursdays, which are days that we very seldom see. You know, we see Fridays and Saturdays around it.
Absolutely, and those are the toughest days because you're fishing against 149 other pros on those days. You'd think those are the tough days.
So this is quite a feat. David, this is really terrific.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to go on over there and throw in the towel. Now give me time to put my poles up. Irregardless of how it turns out, I've done all I think I can do.
Did all I can do. I guess it'll have to be respectable anyway. Could have been a lot worse both days. I mean, I could have easily not made it this far. We'll just have to see what happens.
The Walmart FLW Tour is brought to you by Evinrude Outboards and Electrics, the world's most refined engines. By Uniroyal, driving dependability home. By Coca-Cola, always Coca-Cola. And by Spiderwire, Super Mono, the meanest monofilament ever made.
Numerous casts Wally Zuba makes at a contrary bass, and he finally catches the fish and makes the Fuji flashback.
4 casts.
4 casts. 4 casts. However, Jeff Coble and Robbie Walser were the stars of the weigh-in. Boy, I hate to say it, but they wiped out Zuba and Cook and Billy Chapman.
Good solid keeper here. 4 pounds, 6 ounces.
All right. All right. Good limit. Stay right there, Jeff. Don't move. Don't move. So 4 pounds, 8 ounces is what Robbie Walser needs in order to win the tournament, be the championship of the region here for this 1999. Robbie, bring him on up. We're going to keep Jeff right here. There it is.
Two beautiful fish.
Think that'll make 4-8?
I think it might do it.
Well,
What do you think?
there's only one way to find out.
2 fish. And the weight, 10 pounds, 9 ounces.
There's your champ, Robbie Walser, right here. Let's hear it for him. Big hand. Yes, sir. Jeff, stick around. We'll talk to you in just a second here. We asked everybody, we sat them down and interviewed them sort of separately yesterday, and we asked everybody, you know, what it takes to win a tournament, to be a good fisherman, one of the best. And Jeff said, there's no doubt about it. You got to be consistent. You got to stick in one place. Don't run all over the place. Your buddy over here took the advice. He must have been listening in.
You know, it's 20 years of experience for me. If it keeps happening to you, it kind of sinks in after a while. But it kind of turned out like I thought. I'm lucky to catch what I caught. I had 10:38. I didn't have a fish. You guys had called me, and I finally caught a limit and called one. But you can go ahead and call the Guinness Book of World Records, because I hold the world record for finishing second place in bass tournaments. There's no doubt.
All right, another hand for our runner-up, Jeff Coble. Great job, Jeff. Thanks again. Good job. Man, I think you sort of been on it all week. You had the big smile on your face. You really seemed confident. Everything was been going your way. Really, all week you hadn't had really a setback at all, except maybe yesterday. Things didn't get started until too late.
Just the fact that I fished mentally as good as I did means as much as anything. And it's been 5 years since I won a tournament. I really wondered if I'd forgotten how. I mean, I'm consistent in everything I go to do, you know, and be up there in the top. I was third in the Everstarts last year. I was second this year for this year, but there's a lot of difference between being consistent and winning. And I don't know. I just beginning to wonder if I'd forgot how.
Well, I think you remember pretty good today. Another big hand for Robbie Walser.
The worldwide leader in sports. For more, log on to ESPN.com, part of Go Network, go.com.